Microsoft has finally completed its $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Following many months of contention between rival gaming companies and regulators, Microsoft has officially brought Activision Blizzard under its umbrella, the tech giant's largest acquisition to date. While it remains to be seen what the roadmap will look like, the acquisition means Microsoft now owns some of the biggest franchises in gaming such as Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and Candy Crush Saga. Back when the Xbox maker first announced its intention to purchase Activision Blizzard, several stakeholders in the industry voiced their opposition to the $68.7 billion deal, particularly the likes of Sony, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, CMA. By early 2023, Microsoft signed exclusive long-term deals with many gaming companies and platforms such as Nvidia, Boosteroid, Nintendo, Ubisoft in hopes of convincing regulators. While Sony initially rejected a similar offer, the PlayStation maker finally signed a Call of Duty deal with Microsoft in July. This was followed by Microsoft pushing its efforts to win the regulatory favor, particularly the CMA. Back when CMA blocked the Activision Blizzard purchase, Microsoft was prompted to make amendments to its originally proposed deal. With the renewed Activision Blizzard acquisition agreement approved by the CMA, Microsoft took no time to finalize the deal. With the sale of Activision's cloud streaming rights to Ubisoft, we've made sure Microsoft can't have a stranglehold over this important and rapidly developing market, said Sarah Cardell, the CMA's chief executive. In an official statement, Xbox chief Phil Spencer announced that all of Activision Blizzard is joining Xbox. The deal marks the biggest acquisition in the company's history, surpassing its $26 billion acquisition of LinkedIn in 2016 and now pushing Microsoft as the third biggest gaming company by revenue, behind Tencent and Sony. The announcement also means that Microsoft will now bring Activision Blizzard games to Xbox Game Pass. Today we start the work to bring beloved Activision, Blizzard, and King franchises to Game Pass and other platforms, said Phil Spencer in his statement. Earlier this week, the company clarified that some of the newer titles like Diablo 4 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 won't come to Game Pass this year. However, rumors suggest that older Call of Duty titles may hit Game Pass sooner than later. Of course, they don't want to cannibalize the sales of Call of Duty. Now that Microsoft has finally completed its acquisition of Activision Blizzard, Xbox head Phil Spencer is sharing his thoughts about platform-exclusive Call of Duty content moving forward. Historically, Call of Duty games would see PlayStation-exclusive skins or even timed exclusivity when it comes to betas. So the community at large is looking to the executive to see what changes are coming now that the iconic shooter franchise has a new home. Phil Spencer appeared as a guest on the official Xbox podcast and shared his desire to put an end to platform-exclusive content for the Call of Duty franchise. The main topic of the podcast centers around the various implications of Microsoft officially acquiring Activision Blizzard, with the Xbox head calming the fears of fans on other platforms, stating, "We have no goal of somehow using Call of Duty to get you to buy an Xbox console." Rather, Spencer goes on to state that they have been on the other side of various exclusive deals, and he wants players on all platforms to feel 100% a part of the Call of Duty nation, whether they're on a Nintendo console, a PlayStation console, or on PC. But we all know Phil Spencer is a liar, so this ain't much of a believable statement, and we need to see if making exclusive Call of Duty features on Xbox moves the needle for the console. You're gonna have the hardcore Call of Duty players buying an Xbox or playing it on PC, maybe 4 to 5 million. But how largely it affects PlayStation's income from COD is need to be seen. And also moving forward, Xbox may not allow Activision Blizzard games utilize the DualSense and 3D audio features of the PS5, I'm afraid. Ubisoft shared new details about its agreement with Microsoft granting it cloud streaming rights for Activision Blizzard games. The deal itself was first announced over the summer, but only came into effect with Microsoft completing the Activision Blizzard buyout on October 13th. Chris Early, Ubisoft's SVP of Strategic Partnerships and Business Development, has now confirmed that the deal will usher in the arrival of Activision Blizzard games on the Ubisoft Plus subscription service, on top of bolstering the company's future streaming offerings. And though the deal only covers the developer-publisher's existing games and any that will release in the next 15 years, Early clarified that the streaming rights themselves are perpetual in nature. In other words, Ubisoft will always have the streaming rights for any part of the Activision Blizzard portfolio released up to late 2038. Ubisoft's Activision Blizzard game streaming deal is hence merely a continuation of the company's efforts to grow its business by making gaming even more accessible, Early concluded. In the end, the debate around the impact on PlayStation faded away. PS5 is the dominant player in console, alongside Nintendo, and that appears unlikely to change. You can see this when looking at the latest sales charts, with PS5 extending its lead over Xbox over the past year. Microsoft's release slate just hasn't been able to compete with what its rivals have been offering. Last month Starfield caused an expected improvement in sales and a lot of engaged players, but console figures suggest that September still belonged to PlayStation on a worldwide scale. As for the long-term impact of this deal on the console space, we will have to see through the launch of the next-generation consoles that starts the race from scratch. At least from the hardware perspective, and also we will have to see if there will be a next-generation Xbox home console. They talked about next-gen hardware being a hybrid cloud device, and also Phil Spencer said if Game Pass doesn't reach 50 million subs by 2026 fiscal year, then they are going full third-party. So, we will have to wait and see. Most of Activision Blizzard's big games are largely centered around the PC platform, and mobile, games like Warcraft, Diablo and Candy Crush. The really big console title of note is Call of Duty, but even if Microsoft does decide to stop making the game for Sony's consoles in 2033-2034, when the deal between the two will end, that's a good 10 years in which to build a competitor, whether that's a first-party or third-party one. There are some companies who have designs on Call of Duty's market share will view this as a great opportunity to team up with PlayStation and its huge audience. What role will Blizzard, historically one of the industry's most successful PC game developers, have on Microsoft's fast-growing PC games business, including Game Pass? Speaking of Game Pass, what's the expected impact of games like Call of Duty on this service? What share could subscriptions now take of game spending, and what will that mean for the future of selling video games? This is something that could potentially impact the entire business, and especially independent creators. And I am interested to find out why Microsoft was apparently comfortable with selling off the streaming rights to the Activision Blizzard library. Is this perhaps not the future of games after all? There are so many interesting questions to answer. So many unknowns and concerns to analyze and discuss. Now that the endless, will it go though saga of the ABK deal is finally at an end, we can sit down and spend some time discussing all of that. And finally discover what impact this whole deal might have on the future of the video games business. Microsoft will be adding 9 more studios to Xbox Game Studios from Blizzard, while its King arm will bring in studios from over 11 locations, with more than 500 Activision employees now part of the Xbox maker. It's also worth noting that Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick will remain at the helm until the end of the year. Starting in early 2024, the company will appoint its new CEO, who will report to Phil Spencer. While Bobby Kotick will be walking away with a massive payout since the deal's closure, it will also be interesting to see how Microsoft handles ABK and its games moving forward. Historically, studios acquired and managed by Microsoft Xbox faces a decline in the game's output quality, like Halo, Gears, Forza, Starfield, and several studio shutdowns from the company. Gaming industry consolidation is at an all-time high right now, with EA is looking to sell to Amazon, Apple or Disney. People will leave in droves after the ABK integration, most of the big heads already did a year ago. Call of Duty always pushes tech forward, especially the campaigns have great storytelling, combat, audio design, graphics, set pieces and animations. So, we'll have to wait and see if the quality of Call of Duty goes down the drain like the other Xbox flagships, but I hope not, and the management at Xbox gets better or replaced. Longtime Bethesda executive Pete Hines has announced his retirement from the Maryland-based video game company. Hines first joined Bethesda all the way back in 1999, becoming the SVP of Global Marketing and Communications before transitioning to Head of Publishing, a role he held from October 2022 to present. Hines has been with Bethesda for about 24 years, and so many fans may be surprised to learn that he's stepping away. Besides Todd Howard, Pete Hines is likely the most recognizable Bethesda employee to fans. Hines has often given interviews about Bethesda and the studio's new games, and he has also had a major presence at various E3 events over the years. It seems the days of seeing Hines on stage and in digital presentations hyping up the latest Bethesda games are over, as the longtime executive is officially stepping away from the company. Bethesda's Pete Hines announced his retirement on Twitter. In his announcement post, Hines confirmed that he is officially retiring, and so it seems he will be stepping away from the gaming industry entirely. Hines will instead begin an exciting new chapter of his life where he will explore his interests and passions, donate his time when he can, and take more time to enjoy life. Hines said that after having an amazing career that culminated with the incredible launch of Starfield that the time feels right to retire. Hines stressed that even though he is retiring from Bethesda, he will remain a part of the company's incredible community. He thanked Bethesda's fans and described working at the company as the greatest experience of his life. Hines added that he's excited to see what Bethesda will make next and that he's looking forward to experiencing the game for himself. Bethesda's official Twitter account responded with its take on one of Hines' patented doctor's note posts, asking Hines be excused from work to spend time gaming, devoting care and affection to his foster pups, card collecting, and having fun with friends in the community. As for Bethesda's next game, it's really no secret what the gaming giant has in store. While Starfield DLC is in active development, Todd Howard has made it clear that Bethesda's next two major releases will be the highly anticipated Elder Scrolls 6 and then eventually Fallout 5, but his last game will be Elder Scrolls 6. It's entirely possible that smaller projects will release in the meantime, like the leaked Oblivion and Fallout 3 remasters, though it's unclear exactly how much Bethesda itself is working on those games. Pete Hines wasn't the only one who left Bethesda. Something Wicked Games announced that it has hired Will Shen as its new lead content designer. He joins the studio that has brought other games industry veterans such as Robert Land, Jessica Slawinski, and Akil Hooper. Shen previously served as design director at Bethesda Game Studios. He was with the company for 14 years. His game credits include Starfield, Fallout 4, and Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. He is currently working on Something Wicked's debut RPG title Wordsong. In Shen's hiring announcement, he said, "Excited to announce that I've joined Something Wicked Games. I'll be working alongside an incredible group of role-playing game developers, and it's amazing to think we have veterans from Bethesda, Obsidian, and BioWare all on one team." Starfield was definitely less successful than the previous Bethesda mainline games like Skyrim and Fallout 4, and even Bethesda fans did consider Starfield as mid to okay. So, the reception of Starfield could have influenced these departures. As for Pete Hines, he wasn't happy that Bethesda games are not on PlayStation, which we learned from the leaked emails from the FTC trial versus Microsoft. That's why he didn't mention Xbox, not even a single word in his retirement post. I don't know if he is completely retired or coming back to game development like Shinji Mikami. People thought Shinji Mikami, Resident Evil veteran and founder of Tango Gameworks, also retired when he left Microsoft and Bethesda. But a few days ago he announced that he will be back in game development. He couldn't announce this during the time he left because Xbox had a clause on what he should speak, and he shouldn't return to the gaming industry for a year. That's some horrible shit to do. So, with Pete Hines not happy with Xbox management, and with the poor reception of Starfield with it releasing in a subscription service could have resulted in him leaving the company. Time will tell if he return back and this a permanent one, and also the Xbox management will determine if there will be an Xbox after this generation. Spider-Man 2 just officially launched, and the game's narrative director is already being asked about a potential Venom spin-off. As seen in the game's various promotional materials, Venom looks to play a major role in Spider-Man 2. The comic book character has had solo adventures before in both the comics and film space, so it stands to reason the popular villain-turned-anti-hero could star in their own game. Spider-Man 2 stands as the highest praised game in the series thus far, so things already seem to be going well for the PS5 exclusive. While early sales figures have yet to be sorted out, the game also could be a top seller as both previous games in the franchise have eclipsed 35+ million copies sold. All things considered, it appears as though Insomniac has a good grasp on the universe and looks to be able to make whatever moves it wants moving forward, and fans will be on board. Perhaps that also means a solo adventure for a fan-favorite antagonist. In an interview with Insider, Spider-Man 2's senior narrative director John Paquette discussed the potential of a Venom spin-off game. When asked about the subject directly, Paquette played coy and said the team would wait to see how the fans react. This will, of course, come after the development team has some time to rest and take stock following the game's release. Perhaps any potential spin-off might take a back seat to Insomniac's next potentially more mature outing with the Wolverine. Paquette went on to talk about how the team took inspiration from all sorts of Venom stories in Marvel Comics but then also went on to create their own thing. Insomniac appears to have done a good job, as even Venom's co-creator praised the design. Insomniac appears to have nailed Venom, so it wouldn't be surprising to see the character receive his own hulking adventure. While Spider-Man 2 is the highest praised Insomniac game of all time, each game thus far has been well received by gamers. That, of course, includes Miles' solo game, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Maybe Venom wouldn't even require his own game. Perhaps the next entry in the series could merely have players switching between Venom, Miles, and Peter at will, similar to how moving between Spider-Man works in Spider-Man 2. That way Venom could still get his own adventure inside the larger Spider-Man 3 narrative. That said, however Insomniac decides to handle the character moving forward, it will likely attract the attention of the gaming community. Insomniac has provided an update on the status of Marvel Spider-Man 2's new Game Plus update, confirming that it will not be ready for the game's launch. The confirmation was delivered alongside details regarding Marvel Spider-Man 2's launch patch, which Insomniac is telling players is highly recommended. Some prospective Spider-Man 2 players were hopeful that this patch might include the previously promised new Game Plus content, but that's unfortunately not the case. Speculation that New Game Plus would be missing from Spider-Man 2 started earlier in October after a content creator with early access to the game shared it wouldn't be available at launch. Spider-Man 2 pre-orderers noticed a small update and were hopeful it could be the addition of New Game Plus, but that was quickly shot down. Still, the inclusion of New Game Plus in the original Marvel Spider-Man kept players' hopes alive, even though New Game Plus was only added to the original game well after launch. Insomniac Director of Community and Marketing James Stevenson posted on social media on Tuesday encouraging players to download the Spider-Man 2 launch update. Spider-Man fans were quick to question Stevenson regarding the patch's content, including asking if New Game Plus and Mission Replay would be ready for launch. Stevenson responded, confirming that neither New Game Plus nor Mission Replay functionality will be available when Marvel Spider-Man 2 arrives. As for when the New Game Plus update will be delivered for Spider-Man 2, Stevenson says that it should be released before the end of 2023. That's in line with when the original Spider-Man's New Game Plus update was released. Marvel Spider-Man launched in September 2018 and New Game Plus was delivered before the end of October that year. Spider-Man 2 arrives on October 20th, so Insomniac will hopefully be able to drop its New Game Plus update in November. It may be disappointing to some looking forward to Spider-Man 2 that New Game Plus won't be available on launch day. Insomniac's priorities for launch are to ensure a polished experience for as many players as possible. New Game Plus will then be available at a time when more players will have finished the game, sometime before the end of the year. Marvel Spider-Man 2 sales figures for the launch weekend should surpass God of War Ragnarok, and create a new record for PlayStation. The install base of the PS5 should be at 50 million by now, and most hardcore gamers jumped into the current gen by now. So Spider-Man 2 should do at least 6 to 7 million copies sold in its launch weekend in 3 days. The reception of the game from who played it early are great, and the reception of rest of the gamers could be greater. At the end of the day, your experience is what matters. That's why I don't cover Metacritic review scores and game awards. But it does have an impact on the casual gamers that look to other people for their purchase decision, and also developers' bonuses are tied to these and it increases sales as well. So, kudos to Insomniac and I'm sure it'll be a great time when I experience it. Earlier this year, developer Bloober Team released a remake of and sequel to the 2016 game Layers of Fear and its sequel Layers of Fear 2. The remake, simply titled Layers of Fear, combined the two originals while expanding the experience with a new DLC, The Final Note. 2023's Layers of Fear delivered one of the most immersive horror experiences in quite some time, reinvigorating the original's fandom while drawing in a new base of players. Bloober Team has been quiet since the title's launch in June, leading many fans to assume the developer had moved on to its next major title. However, a posting on Layers of Fear's official X page has revealed some surprising news, making October 24th a day for which fans should be very excited. Layers of Fear is a narrative-focused first-person horror game that takes players through a series of supernatural stories. The title collects all previous Layers of Fear content, updating their visuals and gameplay as a means of providing the definitive experience for fans both old and new. In addition to previous content, 2023's Layer of Fear includes a DLC titled The Final Note, which follows a new character, the musician, in a story that adds new perspectives to the 2016 original. The musician is the wife of Layer of Fear's main character, the painter, and her story is meant to provide a means for fans to reevaluate her family's experiences and actions. While The Final Note was meant to bookend the Layers of Fear experience, it now appears that won't be the case. The Layers of Fear series can be described as a cult hit. Despite its world being graphically impressive and deeply immersive, many horror fans find the series' narrative style and approach to horror rather hit or miss. 2023's Layers of Fear put these qualities under a magnifying glass, delivering one of the most visually impressive titles in history, while leaving each title's divisive qualities untouched. 2023's Layers of Fear release was largely viewed as a one-and-done love letter to fans, with the developer announcing its departure from the psychological horror genre that same month. However, it now appears there is more to come. Bloober Team took to X earlier this week to make a surprising announcement. In its post, the developer revealed that a previously unannounced DLC will be released for all owners of 2023's Layers of Fear on October 24, 2023. The new DLC will be completely free to anyone who owns the definitive Layers of Fear experience and is being released to coincide with Bloober Team's birthday on October 24. While the developer left the release steeped in mystery, the post's final statement of lights, camera, action, and screenshot hint at a story centered on film and early video cameras. Layers of Fear's upcoming DLC is a massive surprise, as the title's release was meant to deliver the final experience. A visit to the title's official site reveals that the 2023 release, particularly the Final Note DLC, was intended to be Layers of Fear's last spine-chilling story. It's likely that few fans were expecting yet another narrative DLC a full 4 months later. Nevertheless, fans can look forward to another chance to enter the world of Layers of Fear and discover more about its interlocking tales of psychological terror. Layers of Fear's newest DLC is a near total unknown, making its fast-approaching announcement and release all the more exciting. Providing fans with little more than a cryptic screenshot, the DLC's potential is left open-ended, leaving fans to theorize whether it will add further context to prior Layers of Fear tales or provide an original narrative beyond the base experience. Luckily, fans don't have to theorize for long, as Layers of Fear surprise DLC arrives later this month, just in time for Halloween. November 2nd is the day that co-op zombie-slaying game Dead Island 2 will release its first major DLC expansion, titled House. Dead Island 2 finally released earlier this year after being trapped in development hell for nearly a decade. Upon launch, Dead Island 2 earned, though it was generally considered a worthy successor to its predecessor. With impressive graphics and solid zombie-killing fun bogged down by some technical issues. Since launch, Dead Island 2 has received important updates that have improved the experience by addressing its biggest bugs. Soon fans will have a more substantial update to look forward to, as developer Dambuster Studios and publisher Deep Silver are preparing to release the House DLC for Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2's DLC plans and roadmap were announced a few months after the game's launch. At the time, it was confirmed that Dead Island 2 would have at least 2 DLC story expansions for fans to check out, with the first, House, launching in Q4 2023. House has now been confirmed to release on Thursday, November 2nd. The announcement was made on Twitter along with some key art for the DLC, though an official trailer still has yet to drop. While fans wait to see the Dead Island 2 DLC in action, they can take note of the description that was previously released for it, which states that the DLC will be about a billionaire who has organized a techno-death cult in the midst of the zombie apocalypse. Dead Island 2 fans will want to get their co-op group back together for House launch on November 2nd. Those that still haven't had their fill of Dead Island 2 after the launch of House on November 2nd can look forward to the game's second expansion, Sola Festival, which is set to launch in Q2 2024. Not much is known about the Sola Festival DLC, except it's set at a Los Angeles music festival of some kind. Based on how the release date reveal for Dead Island 2's first DLC has been handled, fans likely won't learn more about the Sola Festival DLC until a month before its launch. It remains to be seen if the Dead Island 2 DLC is enough to convince lapsed players to pick the game back up again, but it could reignite some interest in the zombie game. It's likely that the DLC will be quite as expansive as the standalone Dead Island Riptide that was released for the first game, but it should still give fans plenty of reason to pop the game back in on November 2nd. Alan Wake 2 will have substantial support after its launch, including free and paid DLC. The news, which was unveiled at EGX, indicates that the true detective-inspired Alan Wake may second entertain gamers long after launch. Remedy Entertainment's Alan Wake was originally released in 2010 and became quite a critical darling. Now, more than a decade after its launch, the team is finally working on a sequel. Alan Wake 2 will have dual protagonists, bringing the first game's famous thriller writer Alan Wake back, and introducing a new character in FBI detective Saga Anderson. Sam Lake, the creative director of Remedy Entertainment, has recently talked about the future of Alan Wake 2 during an onstage EGX interview. According to him, free DLC drops will be coming after the title's launch, and they will be pretty significant. The game will have 2 paid expansions, which were already announced and will be called Night Springs and Lake House. While not much information was unveiled about this upcoming DLC, Lake assured gamers that more details are coming up soon after Alan Wake 2's launch at the end of October. These are certainly exciting news for fans of the franchise. Before now, gamers already knew that Alan Wake 2 would have a substantial amount of content when compared to its predecessor. According to Remedy, Alan Wake 2 will be over 20 hours long, making it one of the longest games the studio has ever developed, and that's not including the paid DLC. As a comparison, the main story of Control lasts between 10 and 12 hours, while the original Alan Wake would be played on average for 11 hours if the player only followed the main story. So not only the game will be twice the size of than before, but it will have strong support after launch via DLC. With the release of Alan Wake 2 coming up soon, Remedy Entertainment is slowly unveiling more details about the game. According to some recent leaks, a new Sonic the Hedgehog game is due out in holiday 2024. This isn't the first time a Sonic the Hedgehog product has been the subject of leaks, and given how common leaks are in the gaming industry, it probably won't be the last. As an IP, Sonic the Hedgehog has seen something of a resurgence in recent years. The 2 movies, starring Ben Schwartz, have been commercially successful, the IDW comics are still going strong, and the Netflix series Sonic Prime is already 2 seasons in. On the game side, last year's open-world romp Sonic Frontiers was a commercial success despite mixed reception from critics, having dropped its final DLC pack in late September. Meanwhile, the 2D throwback title, Sonic Superstars, is just on the horizon. With all the momentum the brand has right now, it would be the perfect time to add something else to the lineup and keep the Blue Blur's name in fans' mouths. As reported by Nintendo Everything, a recent brand presentation from Sega of America was posted online, complete with a slide detailing Sonic's roadmap for 2023 and 2024. Starting off next year are things the public already knew about, including the Knuckles TV series that shares a canon with the films and will see Idris Elba reprising his role. And the 3rd season of Sonic Prime, wrapping up the 24-episode order. The TalesTube series of VTuber shorts will continue to release new episodes on a quarterly basis, while yet another new Sonic mobile game will be due out in spring 2024. Beyond this point are some much more interesting plans. Sonic Superstars will reportedly receive DLC, set for an undecided release date, while a new, unspecified title will be released in the holiday season, with some form of a prologue releasing beforehand. Finally, the 3rd Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which will feature Shadow the Hedgehog, will be released in December 2024, but again, that was already confirmed prior. While the presentation did not reveal many details about the announcements, it does open up plenty of room for fan discussion and speculation. Regardless of whether any of the new stuff is true, Sega has promised to focus on improving the quality of future Sonic titles, so heedless of what comes next year. Sonic fans should be in for a treat. The Epic Games Store has announced its next major effort to bring more PC games to its platform. The Now on Epic program offers developers and publishers 6 months of 100% net revenue to bring their previously released PC games to the Epic Games Store. That's not only a 12% increase compared to the Epic Games Store's standard 88/12% revenue split, but powerful messaging. Epic wants games on its platform so badly that it's willing to cut itself out of revenue. Up until now, the Epic Games Store has been criticized for some of its efforts to draw users to its growing platform. That starts with Epic's investment into PC storefront exclusivity, preventing them from launching on Steam for a certain amount of time. Other efforts have been received more positively, but their impact is questionable. The 88 to 12% revenue split and the continued offering of free games are both great, but may not be drawing publishers or gamers away from Steam. The new effort from the Epic Games Store to bring PC games to the platform is called Now on Epic, and it's targeting games released prior to October 31, 2023. The deal is that developers or publishers that have previously released a game or games either on a different PC storefront or via a PC subscription service can bring it to the Epic Games Store and receive 100% of net revenue for 6 months. After 6 months, the contract will revert to the Epic Games Store's standard 88 to 12% revenue split. There is one big catch, though. The more games a developer/publisher has released on Steam, Xbox Game Pass, or elsewhere on PC, the more they have to bring to the Epic Games Store. If a developer or publisher has 3 or more games released, they must bring at least 3 to the Epic Games Store. If they have less than 3, they have to bring all of those games over. The goal of the Now on Epic program is to bring as many games to the Epic Games Store as possible. Epic makes note of a few additional rules associated with the Now on Epic program. All games must be released on the Epic Games Store by June 30, 2025, 4/1. So publishers can't claim to be following the program and then fail to deliver. Further, early access games are included, though they have to have been released prior to October 31 just like any other game. Perhaps a few indie games will see that as an opportunity and will rush to launch in the next 2 weeks. While the Now on Epic program is an interesting opportunity for game developers and publishers, it perhaps belies a deeper conflict at the Epic Games Store. In September, Epic Games laid off 16% of its workforce, over 850 employees. CEO Tim Sweeney said at the time the layoffs would allow Epic to get to the other side of profitability, even if certain products were left under-resourced for a time. The Now on Epic program may have come at a cost, and may not guarantee results either. A developer that would pass over the Epic Games Store's 88% revenue share may be one that passes over a 100% share, too. Titles that have been released as early access are also eligible for Now on Epic. Sony has officially announced a brand new feature exclusive to PlayStation Plus subscribers who are signed up for the PS Plus Premium tier. PS Plus Premium is the most expensive tier of PlayStation Plus, but it brings some incredible value to the table. With a PS Plus Premium subscription, subscribers get access to everything included in the PS Plus Essential and Extra tiers, plus access to classic games from the PS1, PS2, PSP, and PS3 libraries. Gamers wanting access to classic games will want to sign up for PS Plus Premium, though those satisfied with PS4, PS5 games and the monthly free PS Plus games may not be tempted. Perhaps in an effort to convince more gamers to spring for PS Plus Premium, Sony is adding a brand new feature that will be exclusive to PS Plus Premium subscribers, PS5 Cloud Streaming. PS5 Cloud Streaming will be available in Japan first, starting October 17, before extending to Europe on October 23, and finally launching in North America on October 30. PS Plus Premium subscribers will be able to use the feature to stream many major PS5 games featured in the PS Plus Extra catalog, plus select digital games that they own outright. Some game trials can also be streamed, which would go a long way in saving storage space as gamers will no longer have to download entire games to try their trials. Being able to stream games from one's digital library will also help save storage space, though one will obviously need a strong internet connection to take full advantage of PS5 cloud streaming. Additional details about PS5 cloud streaming have been revealed by Sony. Players will be able to use the feature to stream DLC for relevant games, and they will also have the option to play in up to 4K resolution, depending on the game. Screenshots, video captures, the PS5's enhanced audio features, and more will all be included in PS5 cloud streaming, so it should provide an authentic PS5 gaming experience if one's internet can match up. Sony stated that cloud streaming will only be available on PS5 at launch, which opens the door for the feature to make its way to other platforms. It's possible that Sony will add the feature to its aging PS4 console, but maybe it will look into incorporating it on PC or mobile platforms instead, something that Microsoft has done with its own cloud streaming efforts. That's just speculation at this time, and for now, the only place PS Plus Premium subscribers can expect to use the cloud streaming feature is on the PS5. Nvidia GeForce Now is getting a big price increase in Europe and Canada, with the streaming service being set to become between 10% and 40% more expensive, depending on the exact tier and market. The incoming price hike was announced shortly after the GeForce Now library expanded to Xbox Game Pass. Following years' worth of beta testing, Nvidia finally launched its streaming service in early 2020. Apart from a free tier, the solution was also offered as part of Premium Founders membership, priced at $5 per month. A year later, the company introduced a priority tier of the service, which was functionally equivalent to the now-retired Founders subscription, but twice as expensive. Existing Founders members were grandfathered into the new system, so long as they kept their subscriptions active. And while that Founders for Life benefit still applies to early adopters, many other members will soon be facing a notable price hike. Starting November 1st, GeForce Now users in Canada will see their priority subscriptions go up from $10 to $14 a month. Likewise, a 6-month priority plan will soon cost $70, up 40%. Meanwhile, the monthly rate for the ultimate tier is getting raised from $20 to $26, whereas its 6-month equivalent will retail at $140 instead of $100. The GeForce Now rates are also set to go up across the European Union, although the increases on the old continent appear to be less significant, ranging from 10% to 20%. Nvidia detailed the incoming price hike on its support pages, citing the need to account for increased operating costs in the affected markets as the reason for the adjustment. Anyone who is currently on the fence about getting a GeForce Now membership might want to pull the trigger on one of its subscription tiers before November 1st. As doing so will allow them to lock in their plan at the current pricing for the next 6 months. The change will also affect membership gift cards, although those purchased prior to November 1st will still be honored at redemption, as per Nvidia's support pages. The effects of this price increase are yet to be seen. GeForce Now isn't the first gaming subscription service to raise its prices in recent weeks, with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass doing the same back in early September. That particular move was met with vocal pushback among the fandom, and even prompted some PS Plus members to cancel their subscriptions. This also happens in the movies and television industry. Subscription services aren't sustainable, especially for date-and-date AAA game releases, and the pricing is gonna go up and the quality is gonna go down and down, if the gaming industry goes down in this subscription-first path. Now let's do our monthly video games industry report. Starfield debuted at number 1 in Circana's US charts for September, instantly becoming the 7th best-selling game of 2023 year-to-date. Bethesda's space adventure RPG ranked as the best-selling title across Xbox and PC according to Circana's monthly US sales report, as shared by executive director and industry analyst Matt Piscatella. PC was the lead platform for the game, which launched on September 6th. Starfield would have feasibly ranked even higher were it not a Day 1 Xbox Game Pass release, as Baldur's Gate devs Larian Studios don't report to Circana NPD. Otherwise, Baldur's Gate 3 would be in the number 1 spot. As for its effect on Xbox Game Pass subscriptions, Microsoft might share some data on that front come October 24th. When the tech giant is scheduled to release its next earnings report covering the 3-month period ending September 30th. Alongside Starfield, there were 4 new entries in the top 5 last month. Mortal Kombat 6 debuted at number 2, selling most on PlayStation platforms. EA Sports FC 24 and Payday 3 debuted in 3rd and 5th place respectively, while The Crew Motorfest came in at number 7. Madden NFL 24 fell from its top spot in August to number 4 this month. Consumer spending increased 10% year-over-year to $4.5 billion owing to a 13% growth in spending on content, an improvement on the 4% increase seen in August. Accessory sales saw an 11% rise year-over-year to $197 million. Hardware saw a 8% drop year-over-year, despite growth in Xbox hardware. This was offset by a decline in sales for Switch and PlayStation 5. Even though the latter saw a reduction in sales, PlayStation 5 remained the best-selling hardware platform this month. PlayStation 5 continued to lead the 2023 hardware market across both units and dollars. Year-to-date hardware spending was 10% higher when compared to the same period in 2022, at $3.7 billion. Accessories spending during September increased 11% when compared to a year ago, to $197 million. Gamepad spending increased by 15% in the month compared to a year ago, while racing controller spending grew by 18%. The PS5 DualSense wireless controller, Marvel Spider-Man 2 Limited Edition was the best-selling accessory of the month in consumer spending. I see a lot of misinformation going around. Starfield didn't sell 10 million copies, it's 10 million players including people who hit the download button on Game Pass. It outsold Final Fantasy XVI in the US, not worldwide. European numbers for the year overall is not available yet, and FFXVI did big numbers in Japan, whereas Starfield didn't even chart in Japan. And you should also consider other worldwide markets to say which outsold which. Also, NPD focuses on revenue rather than numbers. So, Starfield made more money than FF16 in the US. That's impressive for a game in Game Pass, but the early access definitely boosted it up a lot. The early access strategy from Xbox will be a factor in moving forward for them to make some money, because launching AAA games in subscription service day and date gonna cannibalize the sales and they know it. Video game sales across Europe were down in September compared with the year before, according to the latest figures from GSD. September 2022 was a 5-week month, and as a result the numbers appear down 16% over September 2023. But this year was a 4-week month. And so if we compare week 36 to week 39, the like-for-like sales weeks, overall game sales are down just over 1%. The main reason for the drop was this year's EA Sports FC 24. EA's new football game brand has got off to a strong start, but it is 10% down compared with the launch of FIFA 23 last year. It's worth noting that FIFA 23 had a particularly strong launch. If we compare EA Sports FC 24's launch with FIFA 22, and sales are actually only down 3.7%. EA had anticipated some initial decline as a result of the name change. EA Sports FC 24 sold best in the UK, and was number 1 in all major European markets. There was also a drop for the other big sports game of the month. NBA 2K24's opening 3 weeks on sale are down 17% compared with NBA 2K23. The second biggest game of the month was also a new IP in the form of Xbox's Starfield. It was a strong launch for the game, which was also available day and date on Game Pass. However, the game couldn't unseat Forza Horizon 5 as Xbox's biggest game launched this generation. Starfield's first 4 weeks on sale are 13% below what Forza Horizon 5 managed. Starfield was number 2 in the UK and Germany, whereas NBA 2K24 was number 2 in Italy and Spain. In France it was the Crew Motorfest, a game developed in the country, that claimed the number 2 spot. Indeed, the Crew Motorfest, number 4, bucked the trend in September, with launch sales up over its predecessor. For its first 3 weeks on sale, Ubisoft's racing game posted a 6.5% sales improvement compared with the launch of 2018's The Crew 2. The final new game we've not mentioned is Mortal Kombat 1, which is in number 5 spot across Europe. The Warner Bros. Game's first 3-week sales are down nearly 39% when compared to 2019's Mortal Kombat 11. PS5 continues to dominate across Europe. Once again comparing the same 4-week sales period in September, sales of games consoles were up nearly 38% compared with the same 4 weeks in 2022. Not every European market is tracked, Germany and the UK is missing, but overall 416,000 games consoles were sold across the participating markets. This was driven by PS5, with sales of Sony's console up 175% over the same period last year. There were still strong stock shortages of PS5 in September 2022. Nintendo Switch sales were down 28% compared with last September, while Xbox Series S and X sales are down 35% for that 4-week period. In terms of accessories, 1.1 million add-on products were sold in September, with Sony's PS5 DualSense controller driving sales alongside the Xbox Series wireless controller. 3.5 million video games were sold across the UK last month, a slight rise of nearly 1% over the year before, GSD data. The best-selling game by a country mile was EA Sports FC 24. It's a strong launch for the game, with sales only down 8% over last year's FIFA 23. It was expected that there would be some decline due to the rebranding, plus the fact last year's FIFA launch was particularly strong. EA's dominance of the football game genre looks set to continue even without the FIFA IP. The second best-selling game of the month belongs to Xbox's Starfield. After 4 weeks the game is narrowly behind Forza Horizon 5's launch in terms of sales, which remains the fastest-selling first-party Xbox game this generation. 2/3 of the Starfield's unit sales were on PC. There's another new game at number 3 in the form of Mortal Kombat 1. The Warner Bros. Game's first 3 weeks on sale are down 24% compared with the opening of Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat has an audience in the UK, but the title's popularity is typically much stronger in North America. In 4th place is another new game in NBA 2K24. The 2K game sports title didn't do as well as last year's version, with sales down 26% year-on-year. Again, NBA is a title that focuses on the US market. There are 2 other new games in the charts. Play-in's Payday 3 makes number 6. It looks like a steady launch for the game, although the data doesn't go back far enough to compare to 2013's Payday 2. And finally, the Crew Motorfest crosses the finishing line at number 9. The Ubisoft Racer also had a weaker launch than its predecessor. For the first 3 weeks, unit sales are down 30% compared with the launch of the Crew 2, which launched in June 2018. Console hardware continues to deliver. Game console sales jumped 44% in the UK during September, compared with August, driven by strong sales of all consoles and particularly the Xbox platforms benefited from the release of Starfield, with sales up 136% month-on-month. The Series X SKU was narrowly the most popular version last month, ahead of the Series S 512GB edition by just 100 units. The new 1TB Series S console was the 3rd best-selling Xbox SKU. Xbox Series S and X was the 2nd most popular platform behind PlayStation 5, which also enjoyed a good month with sales up 24% over August. Nintendo Switch fell to 3rd position in September, but it was still a decent month for Nintendo's aging platform, with sales up 18% over August. In terms of accessories, 663,208 add-on products were sold in the UK last month, which is up 17.3% over August, but down 11.6% over September last year, GfK panel data. The DualSense White retains its place as the UK's best-selling accessory. Pikmin 4 was the best-selling game in Japan in September, for the 3rd month running. According to the latest data from Famitsu, Nintendo's title sold another 111,636 copies in the country last month, bringing its cumulative sales to 864,229 units since its launch in July. The PlayStation 5 version of Armored Core 6, which debuted at number 2 in August, charted at number 3 in September, knocked down 1 place by Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. From Software's title sold an additional 39,845 copies on PS5 during the month. Nintendo's combined release of Pikmin 1 and 2, which launched on September 22, debuted quite strongly at number 6, selling 23,941 copies. New entries also included Konami's Super Bomberman R2, which entered the charts at number 12 with 16,021 units sold, and Neowiz's Lies of P on PS5 at number 18 with 10,145 copies. Looking at hardware sales, Nintendo Switch was once again the best-selling console in Japan in September, shifting 307,447 units across its 3 versions, with the OLED representing the majority of the sales among them. The PS5 had to settle for number 2 again, selling 181,056 units across its base edition and its digital one. Meanwhile, Microsoft finally reached an install base of 500,000 players for its Xbox Series X and S in Japan, as the launch of the carbon black Xbox Series S boosted sales of the platform in the country. From Baldur's Gate 3 to Mortal Kombat 1, let's check out PlayStation's top downloaded games from the month of September 2023. In the US, NBA 2K24 is the best-selling game of September on the PS5. Baldur's Gate 3 comes at 2 above Mortal Kombat 1, which is at 3. In Europe, EA Sports FC 24 comes at first, with Baldur's Gate 3 at 2. Baldur's Gate 3 is selling incredibly well, but they don't report to NPD, and I need sales update on that game overall and platform-specific numbers to see the performance. Obviously GTA 5 is still in the top 10. For PSVR 2, Crossfire Sierra Squad stormed the list in both regions, rising from 4th to the top spot. Brand new Souls-like game Lies of P is a hit, securing positive reception and selling 1 million units within its first month of release. Some fans weren't entirely sold on Lies of P after playing the demo, but developer Neowiz made some adjustments based on that feedback. And it seems those tweaks have made all the difference for the fairy tale-inspired Souls-like game. Lies of P earned positive reception from gamers at the time of its release, with a great deal of praise for its graphics, adrenaline-fueled action, and atmospheric game world. NeoWiz has confirmed that Lies of P has officially sold 1 million units within 1 month across its various platforms. The developer also teased that it would be sharing what the future holds for Lies of P when the time is right, so fans of the Souls-like Pinocchio game should be excited. While full reveals haven't happened yet, fans already have a pretty good idea of what to expect from Lies of P's future. It's been confirmed that Lies of P DLC is in active development. Beyond DLC, it's also been teased that a Lies of P sequel is in the works. Going into detail about what such a sequel might entail would be to venture into spoiler territory, but fans should rest assured that Lies of P2 has very exciting territory to explore. There are many Souls-like games on the market, but they often fail to live up to the high expectations set by From Software's games. It's great to see a new IP like Lies of P not only live up to fan expectations, but seemingly exceed them. Here's hoping this is the start of a quality new franchise. Another sales update include Minecraft selling 300 million copies, remaining as the best-selling game of all time. Mojang Sandbox game will celebrate 15th anniversary next year. It is a great time to be a gamer, especially this year is one of the best years in gaming as a whole. And this weekend with Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, it's gonna be a great time to be a gamer and experience these worlds. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then, from SMPV, it's goodbye.